It was really out of the blue. One day, my father-in-law, whom I respected so much, suddenly passed away. I really respected my father-in-law both at home and at work. I hope he will continue to be well. He's like the father to me. That's what I thought. But I never thought that I would have to say goodbye so soon. Simon. In the midst of my unceasing grief, I went to the funeral. But there was no seat for me. What? What does this mean? Aren't I supposed to sit with this family? My mother-in-law slowly approaches me. She grimaces and says, "Can a middle school graduate stay away from us? You should there by yourself." At that moment, my eyes widened. That's terrible. She'd go this far just because she doesn't like me. How much more do you have to harass me? But soon after that, things took a drastic turn when someone made a shocking statement. My name is May. I am 30 years old. I am an ordinary employee of a company. I started working for this company 2 years ago. It was the beginning of my marriage to my husband, Pete. We started dating 3 years ago and got married 2 years ago. Until then, I had been working for another company, but when we got married, I decided to move to a new place and quit my job. However, I would like to work until we have a child. As I was thinking this, my father-in-law, who is the president of the company, made me an offer like this. "May, would you like to work for my company?" "What? In your company?" "Would love to have a diligent person like you." "Wait a minute. If I join your company, it'll just cause trouble." "Pete tells me you are a good girl who works hard. I trust you. That's why I'm recruiting you." But the truth is, there was one reason I hesitated to accept my father-in-law's offer. It is that I am not well educated. In a world where college graduates are the norm, I'm a junior high school graduate. It all started when my father passed away in the summer of my third year of junior high school. My mother, who had been a stay-at-home housewife until then, started work. But I guess she must have been reckless. She became physically unable to work full-time. Of course, I had a choice to go to high school with a scholarship. However, even if I had not taken a financial burden, my mother would still have to work to make ends meet. I do not want my mother to be overworked anymore. I just wanted her to rest her body. So I decided to work instead of going to high school. I talked with my homeroom teacher, who helped me to find a job. As a result, I got a job at a local factory after graduating from junior high school. There, I was hired as a clerk, and although it was not much, I was able to earn a certain amount of money every month. Money was needed endlessly to pay for my mother's hospital visits and living expenses. Although my salary was not enough to live a good life, I was still very happy to be able to live with my mother. Later, I met my husband Pete, and we started dating. My mother was hospitalized at that time, but when I told her that I was going to marry Pete, she was happy and cried. "I am happy for you. I've been feeling sorry for depending on you for a long time." "Stop it, Mom. You didn't do anything wrong." "I'm so sorry that I've been sick, that I've taken away your precious time. I'm so sorry. Be happy with Pete." "Mom." "Yes, thank you. Happy. My husband also promised my mother that he would make me happy. Perhaps relieved about this, my mother passed away just 1 month after Pete and I got married. I was saddened by the loss of both my parents. Since I had just got married and spent my days at home alone without a job. I think my father-in-law was concerned about my situation. When I happened to visit my in-laws, he offered me a job at his company. Since my husband originally went to a design school, he's working for a design production company instead of working for my father-in-law's company. I wondered if it was okay for me, a junior high school graduate, to work for my father-in-law's company. My mother-in-law, who was there, talked to me while I was puzzled by my father-in-law's invitation. May? It's okay. You don't have to take it seriously. You've only graduated from junior high school. It's a big commitment to go to work for a company. No, it's... Even Pete, my son, doesn't work for my company. And just recently became like a stranger to us. It's crazy for you to work for our company. Of course. I'm sorry. I hope you understand. I'll tolerate it because Pete chose you. But please, don't embarrass our family. I didn't expect to hear such a thing after only a month of marriage. But it was my husband who supported me. Pete tapped the desk and stared at my mother-in-law and obviously changed his tone of voice. Hey, Mom. What are you talking about to May? May is a hard-working and responsible girl. What's wrong, Pete? I'm doing what's best for you and your father's company. Dad will decide what happens with his company. I decide what's mine. It's not your call to make. It's May's decision whether or not she wants to work for Dad's company. Hey, why are you so mad? You don't have to get so mad. Just don't say anything more to May. I'm sure May will adjust quickly at this company. My mother-in-law looks uninterested in my husband's words. I was sorry for making the atmosphere heavy, but I was honestly glad that someone expects something from me like this. After thinking about it for a while, I decided to work for my father-in-law's company. I started out doing manual tasks, but I guess the work suited me well. And gradually I was given all kinds of jobs. The employees were really nice and did not look down on me just because I was a junior high school graduate. My father-in-law also gave me equal opportunities to work as well as other employees. Thanks to him, I was able to grow and develop. 3 years later, I turned 33. Recently, I have been entrusted with a fairly large job, and while I felt a sense of responsibility, I also felt a great sense of fulfillment. Then one day, on a day off from work, my father-in-law called me to the office. When I went to the president's office, my father-in-law and some elderly men I did not know were gathered there. Sir, Mr. President, what did you call me here today? I asked my father-in-law feebly. He smiled gently and started talking to everyone. She's my daughter-in-law, and now the mainstay of our company. If anything happens to me in the future, I will leave it to her. Sir, what are you talking about? As you can see, she's still a novice. I'd like to ask for your kind guidance. I look forward to your continued support to our company. Sir? I could only listen, but understanding why the men around me were applauding so warmly. I was told later that all the men were major shareholders of my father-in-law's company. My father-in-law introduced me to all of them, thinking that he could trust me with everything in case something happens to him. Father, are you sure it's me and not Pete? When I asked him fearfully, he nodded his head and said happily, Yes, I am. You were more capable than I had imagined. The other employees have acknowledged it. I've already told the executives about you, and they didn't object. That's because that's what you ordered everyone to do, regardless of my abilities. You need to have a little more confidence in yourself. You are indispensable to this company now. This is what we all agreed on. Dad, thank you. I'm so happy. I had never experienced such recognition from others, and I was so happy that I burst into tears. Receiving such praise from my father-in-law naturally boosted my confidence. When I reported this to my husband, he was so happy as I was. He even thanked me for supporting my father. But a year later, my father-in-law began to complain regularly of back pain. He went to the hospital for a checkup and was found to have cancer. He must have been quite shocked, since he had never had any serious illness and had been in perfect health. After the discovery of the cancer, my father-in-law lost weight rapidly. In no time at all, he was hospitalized, and he could no longer show up at the office. Still, I went to the hospital every day and learned a lot from him about his work. Dad, I found these documents in the president's office.
Oh, that. You can ask Mr. Davis, the managing director, for a better understanding.
Thank you.
And anything else you need to do is in a stack behind my desk. Read through them. And the ones in my desk drawer.
All right. I'll look over everything.
Thank you, May. The rest is yours. I've already told my shareholders about my illness, so don't worry.
My father-in-law made a lot of preparations so that I would not be in trouble later. Even though his body is in trouble, he has already made arrangements so that the executives can instruct me later. Thanks to him, I was able to acquire knowledge smoothly and contribute to the company more than ever. Also, no matter how busy I was with my work, I was always there to visit my father-in-law every day. On the other hand, my mother-in-law did not show up at the hospital at all. When my husband visited at the hospital, he never saw her. I asked my husband to contact her once, but she insisted that she was busy. What in the world could she be so busy for when she is not working? But rather, she is spending my father-in-law's money for shopping as much as she likes. She has been able to make a living thanks to my father-in-law. And yet, she doesn't even go to visit him, even under such circumstances. As for me, I couldn't believe it. I was getting angry at my mother-in-law, but my position did not allow me to interfere. In the end, my mother-in-law visited my father-in-law only once. A month later, my father-in-law passed away, unexpectedly. I really respected my father-in-law, both at home and at work. If only he continued to be well. He was like a father to me. I had thought so, but I did not expect to say goodbye so soon. I decided to take the lead in the company's work, since the company was going to take care of all the funeral reservations. On the day of my father-in-law's funeral, Dad! I went to the funeral in a state of unceasing grief. But there was no seat for me. What? What does this mean? Aren't I supposed to sit with the family? People from my company are there too. But where am I supposed to sit? My mother-in-law slowly approaches me in my confusion. She grins at me and says,
May, you're finally here.
I'm sorry, but Simon's family is just me and Pete. What? What do you mean?
I mean exactly what I mean. You're just an outsider, right? His family is just me and Pete.
My mother-in-law said something that made my husband angry.
Mom!
But my mother-in-law does not change her expression at all. I was at a loss for words, and she said to me mercilessly,
Can a middle school graduate like you stay away from my family? You sit there by yourself.
At that moment, my eyes widened. That's terrible. It's my father-in-law's funeral, and this happens. There are a lot of people around here who know him, but she went to such lengths just because she doesn't like me. How much more do you have to harass me? I'm so frustrated. At being treated badly by her, the tears are welling up in my eyes. My husband has tried to warn my mother-in-law many times, but she never seemed to listen to him. I don't want to stay here any longer. I try my best to hold back my tears and leave the venue. At that moment, several familiar figures appeared in front of me. They were the major shareholders whom my father-in-law had introduced to me. One of them starts talking to me.
I'm sorry for your loss. We were surprised by the sadness of this.
I'm sorry you had to come here in your busy schedule.
I'm sure he must have been very happy to have a daughter like you.
What?
The company is in good hands with you. I look forward to working with you for many years to come.
Thank you very much. Likewise. Tears streamed down my cheeks as I realized how much my father-in-law had built up. At the same time, I see my mother-in-law with a frown on her face at the edge of my vision.
What does that mean? The company is in good hand with you?
One of the major shareholders talked to my mother-in-law, who was muttering in a trembling voice.
You're the president's wife, aren't you? You didn't know that. May is the successor. What the hell are you talking about? How can my husband give the company to her? Of course the employees and we agreed to it. No way. You're kidding? Why would you do that for this little...
My mother-in-law covers her mouth with her hands when she realized how she was talking. Seeing her like that, the shareholders seemed to have guessed something. They looked at my mother-in-law coldly and said in a casual tone,
I understand now why the president entrusted May with the company. It's because you're like that. What do you mean? I've been supporting my husband. Supported him? The boss told me that it was May who came to visit him every day, not you. That means May was recognized by the boss himself as a member of his family and the company. Isn't that right?
My mother-in-law chalked up at the shareholder's comment. She must have been humiliated because her face turned red and she finally left the venue. After that, my husband and I sat together and the funeral ended without a hitch. My mother-in-law did not come back to the venue, probably because of the awkwardness. I found out after the funeral that my mother-in-law had been going to a lot of nightclubs. She withdrew money from my father-in-law's account without his permission. And when my father-in-law found out about it, he did not attack my mother-in-law directly, but just continued to collect evidence. He had already retained a lawyer, and all he had to do was to make a claim and file for divorce. Naturally, my father-in-law did not neglect the procedure to exclude my mother-in-law from his inheritance. Thereafter, she was finally disinherited. And in addition, she had to pay back all the money she had spent at the nightclub. Since my father-in-law has already passed away, the money is to be repaid to his surviving family. My mother-in-law will have to continue to repay the debt to her son. However, it is her own fault that all of this had happened. She took advantage of my father-in-law's money and disrespected me for a long time. She deserves it. On the other hand, I am still working for the company that my father-in-law left to me. I am making efforts day by day so that I will be proud to stand on the top one day, under the guidance of the executives. I will make sure that this company that my father-in-law has built will continue to exist. I am sure that I will face many difficulties in the future. Even so, I will never give up. I will do my best for my father-in-law, who believed in me and entrusted me with everything, and for the many people who support me.